Bella, we've just come out of the Defenders One panel at Cyber UK. For those that might not be aware, can you tell us what Defenders One is and why it's important?
Yeah, I can do, Ian, and I'll give you the inside track, which was the conversation I had with my daughter a couple of days ago in preparation for that panel. So she asked me, "What does Defenders One mean?" She's a 7-year-old, and I said, "Well, what it means is playing together nicely as a team and sharing your toys and being good." And whilst that is a 7-year-old response, and I should probably kind of expand on it a little bit, actually I think that's not a bad description of what we're trying to achieve. So yeah, sharing toys, playing nicely, acting as a team. In reality, so Defenders One is one of the two, this is where we get sensible, two pillars in the government cybersecurity strategy. It's a really, really critical part of what we're doing across government at the moment. And it's a deliberately broad phrase, but I really love what that allows us to do is use it as a bit of a kind of a banner to unify everything that's going on across government in terms of kind of cyber resilience activity. I think that's really, really powerful. What it means in practice. So I'd pick out 3 things. The first is really about our ability to take concerted and decisive action, particularly in response to threats and vulnerabilities and incidents across government, which I think is really, really critical. I think historically we've been fantastic at operating in silos, and we need to get much better at kind of coordinated action. I think the second thing is then about getting much greater visibility of the kind of the scale of risk that we see across governments. And what that means in practice is being much more data driven. It means sharing data more effectively. It means gathering it more effectively and then acting on the basis of it much more effectively than we are at the moment. And I think the final thing is collaboration. And that's kind of in a few different flavors. I think we need to collaborate effectively so that we can bring diversity of thought to some of the really, really tricky challenges that we're dealing with at the moment collectively. But we also need to start kind of using that collaboration to build skills and capability much more effectively than we are at the moment. So I think those 3 things are kind of what it means from my perspective.
Absolutely, and it's really clear that we need to work together to begin to address some of the threats that we face. And there are parts of the public sector that have really embraced this already. What do you think we can learn from organisations like like the health sector and the approach that they're taking?
Yeah, I think it's a really brilliant example. And if you look at the health sector, so 150,000 organisations across health and social care, it's an enormously complex environment. And I think there's lots of things that we can learn. But one of the things that's really struck me is that they've taken a really bold approach. So they have defined a very clear single strategy for health and social care in terms of how they will tackle cyber resilience challenges. They've thought very carefully about what makes sense to deliver kind of once and well centrally, and how they can utilize things like common technology platforms across a really broad range of organizations to kind of do that really well. But then also thought about what needs to kind of stay retained within the organization. So I think that kind of bold approach, kind of centralizing where it makes sense to do so, but then also kind of empowering broader organizations is really powerful. I think something else that's really interesting in the health sector in particular is they've really recognized the power of the network and the kind of the personal relationships that can be built across really complex organizations or sets of organizations. The Cyber Associates Network is a really great example of that, where you've got brilliant people operating in lots of different organizations, but working together to share skills, which is really, really fantastic to see. I will spare them their blushes. I won't mention names, but it's also really worth noting that there are some fantastic leaders in cybersecurity in health. And I think it's a really great example of when you get brilliant people who really care what you can achieve across a really, really complex environment. So it's definitely worth calling out as well.
No, absolutely, 100% agree with that. Bella, increasingly we find that our systems and our technologies are interconnected, and that risks can impact us all. They're not sort of contained within a single organisation. How are we helping to make sure that consistent risk decisions are being taken across government? Is there more that we could be doing there?
It's a really, really tricky challenge. And I think from my perspective, we need to really kind of change the way that we're talking about the sort of the risk calculus that we sort of have across government. And I think there's a few things I'd call out. So firstly, the ability to measure and articulate levels of resilience that we expect from organisations, and then to be able to kind of communicate that out, I think is really, really challenging. But we've made some really good progress already in that space. So the GovAssure scheme is our new cybersecurity assurance scheme that we've just rolled out across government, and that's giving us a much clearer, more holistic and objective picture of what cyber resilience looks like across government, which is really, really powerful. But even when you get that kind of resilience picture, you then need to think about what does that mean in terms of risk? And actually that's something that is incredibly challenging. I know, across public and private sector, we're all still struggling with the challenge and with the lack of data. So the ability to kind of objectively quantify the impact and the likelihood of risks is still really challenging, particularly in the cyberspace. So there's much more that we need to do there. And I think kind of sharing and collaborating to kind of get the right data sets there is really, really powerful. And the Government Cyber Coordination Centre, which we spoke about earlier on the panel, is going to really, really help us in that space. And the final thing I'd call out is that I think we need to get much better at creating a culture where cyber risk is considered as a business risk, as one of several business risks that leaders are taking into account as they make decisions at all levels of organisations. I think there's a common misconception that you need a degree in maths and computer science to be able to make a decision on what cyber transformation you should do or how much you should invest, and that's just fundamentally wrong. So we need to get better at articulating, what the decision is and what the risk is as people working in the cyber community. But also we need to empower leaders to be able to make those decisions and ensure that they feel that they need to be doing that just as part of standard business procedures.
Yeah, absolutely. Where cyber is throughout the whole business decision-making process, rather than something that's sort of added onto the side.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, certainly you've presented a really compelling case here, and quite an important vision for Defenders One, Bella. But do you think we're going to find our ambitions are going to be limited by the number of cyber experts that we've got across government? And and is there anything that we can be doing to address this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. It's a real challenge. We know that there's a global shortage of cyber skills and technical skills. That's definitely kind of the case within the UK, and I think we feel it particularly acutely within the public sector. But I think there's also a really big opportunity for government. So if we stop operating as a sort of large set of organisations independently, and we think about ourselves as the single biggest employer of cyber skills across the UK, actually that's a really, really powerful position to be in. It's a real opportunity to influence, but it's a really kind of exciting proposal for people who are interested in coming and working in cybersecurity. So we need to get better at that. I think that also then gives us a real opportunity to influence the cyber profession nationally. So for example, if we increase the diversity of kind of skills and capabilities and backgrounds that are coming to work in cyber, that influences the national picture, which is a really fantastic thing and gives opportunities to a much kind of broader range of people. And I think, I don't know if you feel this as well, Ian, but I do feel like we shoot ourselves in the foot a little bit when we're sort of talking about kind of working in government cybersecurity. I don't think we do a good enough job of articulating quite what fantastic opportunities are available, what an amazing place it is to work, and quite how powerful it is to be working with people like our NHS leaders. Absolutely. Who care about exactly the same thing as us, kind of working towards a common mission. It's a really it's a really privileged position to be in, and it's a really fantastic thing. But we're not quite there yet in terms of we need to be slightly less coy in describing that opportunity and what a great place it is to work.
Yeah, no, we did, and I absolutely agree. I mean, I've worked in cybersecurity and government for many years now, and it is a truly fantastic place to work, and we are privileged to work on some of the things that we work on, help protect those services that we all rely on as citizens. So absolutely endorse that. Bella, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you for all of your remarks, and I hope people have got a lot from it.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks.